Okay, all right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I think everybody is here already, right? Let me just check. Yes, everybody is here. Good afternoon. So today it's our final session. I think you'll be happy. Oh, okay. That means it's going to that. Okay, just a moment. How did it? All right. No more, right? Okay. Excellent. Okay. So you'll be happy to know that today is the final session. After this, no more geropsychology, at least not in a testable fashion. And then, of course, those of you who are interested, and I believe many of you are interested in the topic, right, will not have the pressure of learning it under examinable conditions, right? That makes for, I think, more um, more pleasant or pleasurable learning, if you like, right? Though there is no accessible component and follow up. So I remain happy to be contacted, as you know. As I said in the last lecture, you know my work email as well as my NTU email in case it doesn't continue to function. So today, presentation, I gave you the via announcement this afternoon. I kind of wrote the sequence for today. We'll start off with presentations, and I really have no stipulation of which group should go first. If there is any preference, like you would like to go first or you like to go last, just let me know. Because if not, then yeah, if not, then I don't think I want to throw a coin and then decide for every of the rank. We'll just go by number one, two, three, four, and five in that order, if you are okay. If you would like to go over for some reason, like somebody needs to leave early, um, or you just personal preference, that's fine. If everybody else also agrees, right, to do that. So give you a moment to think about that. So that'll be the first thing to do. That'll take us less than an hour, maybe about 45 minutes, right? And then, oh, I should say that this live stream is going now. So people at home, do write in the YouTube if you cannot hear clearly. So what this is going to do two things for us. Um, One is that hopefully it gives you a semblance, I won't say the real thing, but a semblance of kind of speaking to the public, right? As if you're advocating a public policy or program. The second is that, well, it gives you a recording right after this. So you could then review your own um, uh, speech or performance. I know there will be some of you who would not want to see it ever again. That is also fine. Then you can just leave it, right? If you want to see it again, you know where to look, right? You have the URL, the channel's URL. So that's the first thing that will happen. And then thereafter, we'll take a short break, about 10 minutes. After the break, I will share some impressions of. Oh, sorry. Before the break, as each group goes, as each group starts and finishes, right, and uses up and use your 6 minute, um, I I assume there will not be any interruption, no questions, answers, clarifications, right? Barring any technical problems like suddenly lights out or something, right? It should happen smoothly in 6 minutes. Thereafter, we'll open up for questions and answers from everyone else, right? I hope there will be active participation, and I will also have, I think, one or two questions, I believe, knowing your proposals. So that's the sequence. I mean, that is really the presentation. Um, yep, that's about it. Then we'll take a break about 10 minutes. Then thereafter, I'll make some quick comments about what I saw on the presentations. And your written paper isn't due until next week. You can, as you like, hand up early. I haven't set up the Turnitin assignment submission yet. I will do that, right, in the next 1 or 2 days. Yeah. So after the break, I will give some comments on presentation as well as maybe provide some clarifications on the written report requirements. I have had one or two questions over the week sent to me via email. So I thought it's good to let everybody know and then to clarify matters. And then you could also take that opportunity to ask me more questions on the written report requirements. Yeah. So thereafter, what do we have? Thereafter, okay, thereafter, go through the reflective journal number 3. You would already have your mark upon 10 and some short comment from me. I'll go through my overall observations. I would, yeah. Thereafter, I would also tie the reflective journal to the entire course. So I'll go through what we have covered in terms of the flipped classroom, in terms of the content, and I think that's about it. So if there's any topic that anybody would like to ask a bit more, I can share a bit more. I think we should end early, fairly early, like kind of like last week. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So no questions, sir? All right. So I'll let each of you use your own tables. What do you call that? Connection broadcast, right? So everyone could see if you want to show PowerPoint slide or video or some website or anything on your computers, right? In case that doesn't work for some reason, then the lecturer's console or even this table here is available. Okay, in terms of the mechanics. Secondly, in terms of sound. Um, um, I like the presenting group to have access to these two microphones here, so you could speak. But everybody who uses this, right after you're done, please take a wipe from where and wipe it, put it back. I mean, there are two mics here, so if you change hands between group member number 1, group member number 2, then wipe it first before you pass it to the next person you use, and so on. So whenever you are done, just wipe it for safe measure purpose and then pass it to the next person, right? So before you start, do take 1 or 2 of those wipes just to be ready, so that yeah, it doesn't eat into your time, and time is tight, 6 minutes and so on. Okay, so that will be sound. I'm also happy if you would like to come here and stand here and talk. Of course, if you would like to remain where you are at your tables, that's fine too. As you could tell in the previous sessions during the debates, I just hold the camera and I just turn it around. That's fine too, right? So it depends. I leave that to you. Okay. Um, okay. Can you just tell me what is your group number in each of the tables here? Okay, what group is this? 5, and you're using your group number. Yeah, I give you a group number, right? Team 1, team 4. Huh? That's team what? Alastair, your team is team what? Team 5. Huh? Okay, okay, right. That side, team 1. This side, team 2, and this side, team 3. Huh? Okay, all right, all right. Okay, so any request to go first? Okay, you want to go first. All right. Okay. Any objections? Any competing demand? Then we'll throw a coin, right? I mean, if both sides prefer the same thing, we'll just be fair. Okay, everyone, okay to let the, group 1, is it group 2 go first? Yeah? Oh, yes, okay. Group 5, sorry, okay. Group 5 go first. Okay, so group 5 followed by 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that okay? Okay. Yes? Can I confirm? Group 5, you want to go first? All right. So I will let you go first. Would you like to stay where you are? Okay, all right. Sure. So get your wipes, take the mics here, and get ready. All right, let's get ready for group 5. And your table number is you prefer not to have the mic? Um, let's see. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I'm just not sure. People on that side, I don't know whether you could hear their voices clearly. In the last debate, they prefer not to use the mic. Is that okay? Okay. All right. Okay then. Okay. Then try to project your voices. Okay. What table number is this? 6. What number does it say? 6. Let me just check that it's working. Connect your computer to 6. Yes. Excellent. Okay. Live stream check. Okay. Live stream is going okay. Just a moment. The broadcast didn't quite show up. Just a moment. Okay, the broadcast is showed up. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Right, just a moment. Make sure I get this correct. Are you ready? Are you ready? The broadcast is right. It's supposed to be a broadcast there, right? On TV there. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Have you ever thought about what it would be like when you eventually become a caregiver? Well, let us paint a picture for you. According to statistics, you may spend up to 2 hours a day caring for your family members. Now, you might think that having a domestic worker might help in effect, but it might present our prioritize as a full-time one. However, you might also find yourself in more distress and having to provide additional monetary and logistic support for these extra duties. A study by NIH report 40.2% of caregivers for stroke patients having drug stigma. For the loss of discrimination and stigma lowers the chances of severe and great treatment. So forget about thinking how this might affect you in the future because this is a problem now with 210,000 caregivers in the home. As such, we propose for an annual mandatory mental health checkup provided on a platform free of judgment, while being able to keep their mental health in check. So our communities will help us advocate ourselves to the public as well as policymakers. Please enjoy.
My name is Magdalene. Previously, I was taking care of my mom. Now my mom is in a nursing home.
My name is Junlin. You can call me June. I'm taking care of my mom. My mom is elderly with dementia.
Actually, there were quite a few lowest time emotionally during the time when I look after my mom. The one that I remember the most vividly was when she had the second fall. By the time when she get back home after a couple of days, when she needs to change the patch, that is when things all goes bad. She turns into a very hysterical person. She screams, she shouts, she cries, and I wasn't sure what went wrong. That was the most scary time for me because my mom just went hysterical.
There are times when I feel I can manage. There are times I feel that I get frustrated. She will call me, then I say, yeah, what is it? Then she said, I don't know what I want to tell you, I forget already. Then she hangs up. And it happens so many times a day. I will come back, I will say, why you call me already? For what? What you want to look for me for? I will, get angry with her. So that time was in early 2015. I felt very like the loss.
I do have a domestic helper to take care of her during her needs, but besides looking after my mom, I also have to take care of the maid. So this actually gives me extra stress than just looking after my mom.
Okay, because I have gone for training, I have attended courses, I have attended those webinar. Now I know how to deal with the situation now. I had to go and find out myself where to get help lah. Yeah. I was like, but I had no choice because even though I felt overwhelmed, I decided that I must do something about it. How much? Mean in the scale of 1 to 10? Okay, I would say 10. Yeah, I would like 100% support. If it is a responsibility that is being shared by a group rather than one person, then you don't feel so much pressure on that one person. Then you feel that everybody chips in to help. So if that one person won't feel so pressurized.
People like our age, we are middle-aged people. We take care of the young and we also take care of the old, but we forgot about taking care of ourselves. We should be improving on this. I would say that as we age, I hope that this mental health thing doesn't become a recycle thing, from my mom, and then next time becomes me, and then maybe next time becomes my children. I would think that we all need to take care of our mental health during the time when we were young.
So having interviewed June and Magdalene, I believe their stories truly reinforce the struggles and emotional toll they experience while caring for their mothers. And both of their stories are just a small representation of the wider population of informal caregivers that may be going through similar experiences.
Although there have been efforts to campaign for mental health care in Singapore, this subject is still largely taboo in our society. Caregivers often suffer in silence as they feel the need to remain strong for their care recipients and can't afford to break down. So while these caregivers are providing care for their loved ones, how then can we provide them with care too? Thus, we are campaigning for a system that provides mental health support for these caregivers in need.
We hope that eventually yearly mandatory mental health checkups will be available for all the informal caregivers in the future. Fortunately, those who were featured in the video received the support that they required at the right time.
But how many more slip through the cracks? This mandatory checkup could be a way of early identification, intervention, and support. And just maybe, it'll make all the difference.
Thank you. Now, questions for the group. Right. Thank you, Alistair. Other questions or comments which the team could respond to? Anyone? Yes.
implemented for caregivers. So the next problem is trying to identify the caregivers in the first place. And I think that can be done either through, for example, when the patient goes to a hospital and they're diagnosed with a certain illness like dementia, etc., they can declare someone as their caregiver, or if they're not willing to, if they're not like able to because of circumstances like illnesses, they can contact the next of kin and see who's their caregiver, and from there you'll be able to identify one caregiver per person, and then based on that, a caregiver can be mandated to go for a mental health checkup. You also understand that we go if it's a health checkup as well, because mental health and physical health is very intertwined, but we didn't want to like step over our boundaries for this project and like do more than we can, so we're just going to focus on mental health checkups. But that's a possible, I guess, possible future work that can come out of this.
Right, thank you for the response, Alistair, once again. I have a question. In fact, I have two, but let me ask one first. Um, I think it is quite clear that your team, you are advocating mental health checkup. It is very clear for informal caregivers who tend to be family members of the older people that they care for. My question is, why mandatory? Right? So, of course, I mean, I'm sure there are pros and cons, but what is in your mind something that makes mandatory on the balance of need, a greater need than if it is not mandatory?
So, hi. The reason why we want it mandatory is because unfortunately, I hate it as well, but there's a very big stigma surrounding mental health and seeking help right now. So we actually found research that only like around 39% of people from mental illnesses actually do seek help. And they are not caregivers or anything, just the general population. But that's a very low percentage of help seeking behavior. So obviously, because of societal like, culture and everything, it's not something that immediately people will go to for help if they are going through some mental issues or emotional problems. That's why eventually, of course, we want to have a society where there's no stigma and we let them go when they want, you don't have to be mandated, and that also causes a less resource strain on like the healthcare system or mental healthcare system. But now because stigma is something that you can't solve right now in a snap, so we believe that this is something that can help them mental health wise, and also if long enough people start to normalize going to mental health checkups, you can also have a second effect of actually reducing stigma as well. So I think it just works out both ways.
Thank you. Indeed, I actually agree. Yeah, there is research that mandatory programs are a part of contributing to normalizing stigmatized behavior. My second question is something that Alistair mentioned in the previous response to Phoebe, identification of the caregiver. So anyone could say, I'm a caregiver of so and so, right? Any patient could say he or she is my caregiver. Then after a month, say, oh no, he's no longer my caregiver, she's my caregiver. Right? And then, of course, we know that in the sort of the normal scheme of social life, uh, uh, living arrangements change over time. Right? Sometimes A stays with the older mom, and then after that, A doesn't stay with the mom, and B stays. Sometimes that changes as well, right? So, what are your thoughts? I know there is no answer to this. What are your thoughts on how the appropriate caregiver could be identified at whichever appropriate time?
Okay, I think of course that's something that is a little bit more difficult. It goes a bit more into like trying to see whether people adhere to policy and everything. But we have thought about it a little bit, and it's something that we have definitely considered. I feel like having them pick, it's kind of like NRICs. You have every time you move house, you kind of have to declare your new place living residences. I think we can adopt the same system, and perhaps for people above the age of 62 or above a certain age with mental disorders, if they are able, or I mean physical disorders, if they are able to, they can every year as they go for their checkup, we can ask them to clarify whether the caregiver is the same, the address is the same, etc., etc. And if they declare a caregiver, I think it would be good if the person can corroborate the data by like contacting the caregiver and say, hey, you have been or like emailing or something through SingPass that oh yeah, officially now listed as a caregiver, accept or no, then yes. And then from there, of course there'll be people that slip through the cracks, of course there'll be wrong, but I think that's all part and parcel of policy. And I'm sure eventually when if this trick becomes a thing and implemented and trickle goes down, we will come up with more solid SOPs for this type of issue.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions for this team? Team number 2, right? Team number 5. No? Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. All right. The next team get ready. That'll be team 1. Where's team 1? This side. Okay. And what's the table number then? Number 1. Okay, are you ready? Team 1? Yeah? Are you ready? Okay, yeah, begin. Team 1.
Thank you. What your favorite egg start we have for lunch, okay? I'm going to cook lunch first. What easy?
How come you no money? I better go out and take money now. No, I got no money for school. How come I'm here? Where's Uncle? very hungry already. What am I supposed to do now?
So where do you want him to go? Do you want him to go to the bank to withdraw money for Uncle, or do you want him to have a meal? Can we like get show of hands for option A? Or what about option B?
Hello. Do you want to come in and try our lunch menu?
I want to eat noodles.
What kind of noodles do you want? Do you mean spaghetti?
I want to eat noodles. How come empty? Did someone take my money? Uncle, you pay for me. Where are you?
Akong, you go and look for your daughter first.
I want to eat noodles. How come empty? Did someone take my money?
I think Akong has dementia. I should bring him to the side for him down. Come, Akong, we sit down first. I will help you. Don't worry, okay? Akong, I'll help you find your daughter. Do you want some water too?
Can. Thank you, thank you.
Aiyo, I've been looking everywhere for you.
Uncle, you're here. You no school today.
Aiyo, pa, I beat her already. No more school lah.
Thank goodness you came in time. Akong was just wandering around the area.
Thank you so much for taking care of him. Still so nice. We can sit down some more. Other people will just chase him away.
No worries, ma'am. May I ask if your dad has dementia?
Wow, how did you know? My dad has been diagnosed with dementia since last year.
I see. Yes, the vendors here, including myself, have been trained in assisting persons with dementia. We just attended an online workshop a couple of weeks back as part of our company's corporate social responsibility program.
Everyone, I'm your trainer for today. In this workshop, you will first get to know more about dementia and how to identify its signs. Next, you will learn more about what it takes to build a dementia-friendly community. As a service provider, you will also be equipped with various techniques on how to assist persons with dementia on the job. At the end of the workshop, we will be trying out those techniques in a role play as well.
It was a great workshop. Although our trainer was highly knowledgeable about dementia, she made the information easy to digest.
It's amazing. As caregivers, we are always worried about our loved ones with dementia, especially when they get lost in the neighborhood. What if they end up hurting themselves? Most people will also just chase them away because they don't understand them. So I hope that more service providers will be able to help people with dementia in the community.
I believe that in time more companies would join this workshop. Just to let you know, as a dementia friend, our company is listed as a go-to point where members of the public can bring persons with dementia who appear lost.
Wow, now I can be less worried about my father if he wanders off on his own.
Uncle, I can go home now. I'm hungry.
Come, let's go. It's time for lunch. Bye, Uncle. We'll make a move first. Thank you again.
Okay, so you may scan the QR code to view our website on your mobile phone, or simply type in the link to check out the desktop version. So we'll bring you through the website right now. So designed specifically for service providers, our website seeks to inform organizations what service card is all about. So by selecting the job sector they are from, service providers can view potential scenarios they may encounter with PWDs in their workplaces, and even start conversations about situations they have encountered in their day-to-day jobs. So if the program sparks their interest, they can simply sign up for it by filling in a short online form. Yeah, so please feel free to speak to any of us if you have any queries about our initiatives or our personal motivations in undertaking this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Team 1. So now questions for Team 1. Anybody? Okay, Team One, maybe you would like to show us some other features in your website, if there are any there. Right, thank you. I have a question. Um, I remember you started with representing UN Global Compact and I think something like an NGO, and your target audience seems to be local companies as shown in the video. So my question is, how who or which organization will host or house this website, and how will this be maintained as we go forward, as new information becomes available, as new need becomes evident, um, and as the environment changes along the way.
Yeah, I think I was an internet education. I was an outreach and institutional partnerships specialist. So what I did was basically talk to corporates about what to do for their CSR goals. Because a lot of companies, they have the funds, the resources for CSR, but they have no idea what to do with that money or resource. And a lot of them mentioned about helping the elderly, maybe because at home they have they're elderly at home, or they know that Singapore is an aging population, so that's why they, yeah, I mean, I wrote it in my reflection. So, yeah, so when we did our research, we found that NBTC and Global Compact Network Singapore actually entered a 2-year memorandum of understanding. So basically, it sought to establish a national framework to help guide companies on practices in corporate social responsibility and sustainability. So we thought that this would be a good initiative to pitch to these two organizations. Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal and Lukman. Yeah, any other questions for this group, for this team? Okay, if not, another round of applause for them. Thank you. Right. Thank you. All right, the next one, next team, get ready. That'll be team number 2. Where are you? Here? Team 2 is where? Okay, what's the table number? Any sound, if you want, if you have sound, want to check first whether there's sound, so we don't run into the similar issue earlier on. like to have a mic? Okay, good. Would you like to have the microphone? No need? Or the classroom? No need? Okay. Okay. All right, go ahead.
So good afternoon, everybody. Today we'll be presenting about our program, which is called Rubric, and basically it's a program about depressive dementia first aid. So depressive dementia is essentially depression for those suffering from dementia. And identifying depression itself with dementia can be difficult, since dementia can cause some of the same symptoms. However, there is no single test or questionnaire to detect depression, and the diagnosis requires a thorough evaluation by a medical professional. So as you can see from the slide, there is actually a very high prevalence of depression as well as depressive dementia, which is 20 to 60%. So here are the reasons and motivations of why we chose this topic. So we chose to focus on depressive dementia because depression is a common comorbidity in dementia, and the presence of dementia also increases the prevalence of depression in older adults. Hence, overlooking the signs of depression and misattributing them to dementia will impede the effectiveness of treatments that solely focus on either depression or dementia. However, caregivers not understanding the older adult's behavior might find it frustrating to care for them, and without proper treatment, they will suffer more stress as the older adult's condition will not improve. And as such, we design Revive to help alleviate caregiver stress and burnout. So now we'll be moving on to our program. So Revive stands for Recognizing Various Information Vital in Elderly Depressive Dementia. And our main reason is to our main mission is to learn to spot the signs and to learn to care for them. So we focus on teaching caregivers on how to recognize these signs and symptoms, as well as where to seek help, how to care for them, and how to provide for them. And now we'll look at the application for our program.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions again for this group, aside from the phone number?
No question, but I really like the song. Very creative, yeah.
Sure. Did somebody write the song and perform the song?
They sang
Right. Who was the pianist there? I heard a piano.
oh, that one is okay. We just heard the lyrics.
Ah, I see. Nice. Others? Or comment? Yep. Yes. Look like you want to say something? No? Okay. Looks like people here are more engaged with the song than the message. So the lyrics were there, and the what do you call that? The narration is there, but well, you read the lyrics and heard the lyrics, but not so much the narration. It seems. Well, I had kind of the of that experience myself too in the initial seconds. Thereafter, then I realized, well, there's also narration there. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comment on this piece, depression, dementia, first aid? Okay, I have a question. Um, okay. Okay. I should say, who are, well, mm, I can tell that it's obvious that you like to, uh, you have this training workshop that you kind of are advocating. So I can imagine then the target audience would be, well, family members of dementia caregivers. I can also imagine that the secondary audience might be organizations that uh, organize and conduct and deliver such programs that meet social needs. Like in Singapore, we call them VWOs. Elsewhere, we call them NGOs. Right. So that's just my own imagination because I haven't read your report, but I suppose that's the case. My question is, um, there are many even local you can say programs that target either depression or dementia, right? And some might or might not go into both, which you focus on. My question is, how would you persuade any of these stakeholders or even other stakeholders I haven't mentioned that this is right? This program is, I mean, is worth it because there are various ways to raise awareness. There are various ways to deal with dementia, depression, dementia in the community. Um, how will you persuade stakeholders that it is a workshop? Because workshop is once off, or it could be once a week or once a fortnight, and people go back to their homes. And often workshops are, the most they do when it comes to um, ensuring effectiveness is to simply give a feedback form for attendees to fill up at the end of the workshop. At most, what I hear about is perhaps after a week or a month, then a call is given to the attendee to check on some target behavior. So, how would you persuade any of these stakeholders that look, this is the appropriate way? I mean, this may or may not be the only way, but this is an appropriate way. In fact, this is an effective way, right? A workshop, right, to deal with this, well, at least to provide first aid to depression, dementia sufferers, and or their family members.
Like a pilot program. So we were thinking of because there are programs that address dementia and then depression, but not a lot that actually address how do you really care for this kind of elderly. So we are thinking of having liaising with a few community centers or like liaising with a few elderly homes to start this program first to like teach them how do you really care and communicate on a daily basis with the elderly. The
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Other questions? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. Let's thank them once again. Right. Okay. The next group, get ready. Where's the next group? Is it you guys? Okay. All right. So your table number is number 4. All right. So, any sound you want to test first?
Madam Lim is a
Okay. Fine. Would you like the microphones? It's okay. You can speak from here. Okay. Project your voices to the rest of the class. Right. So when you are ready.
Good afternoon, everybody. So today we are here to present our support adjustment and awareness program, which is primarily targeted at holistically aiding all of you informal caregivers who are currently caring for an older adult with dementia. And in order to implement this program, we are collaborating with the People's Association of Singapore, a statutory board promoting social cohesion and community care. So why are we doing this program? To put it simply, wish to help informal caregivers who care for older adults with dementia to deal with the issues that they face and develop resilience in the face of adversity. So research has shown that 27.2% of caregivers report facing a great amount of stress in everyday life. So the main sources of these stresses include juggling caregiving and work, having to multitask a lot, managing other family commitments, as well as the inability to find time for leisure due to the intensive nature of dementia and dementia care. So hence, we hope to address these specific issues through our SAA program. We will now be moving on to the website to explain more about our SAA program. So you may scan this QR code or you may type in this link, whichever works. They both lead to the same place. So is everybody logged into the website? Awesome. To start off, we would like to show you a short video to introduce what our program is about.
Madam Lim is a loyal and loving full-time informal caregiver for a husband who was diagnosed with dementia 2 years ago. She is constantly worried for his well-being. She did not mention her problems to anyone, but she is lonely and upset. Since she became a full-time caregiver, she was committed to meeting the daily needs of Mr. Ng, who requires constant care. There are a lot of woes that are trapped in her heart, but she has unconditional love for her husband. But she does not have to fret much anymore, as the SAA program helps informal caregivers of dementia patients like Madam Lim. There are 3 pillars in the SAA program, namely support, aware, and adjust. Firstly, the support pillar allows informal caregivers to gather together to share strategies, ideas, and resources to support each other. Here, we have Madam Lim sharing about the troubles she has faced caregiving. 就这样，吃了，晚上8点是睡到，我又晚点睡，睡到又中间嘛，我放到我又地上，他不会讲说要我要变小便，结果每次看到我他白天是睡，晚上不要睡是吵人，我们是吵到很辛苦。Secondly, the Adjust pillar offers useful time management strategies in order for informal caregivers to have work-life balance. They will be updated regularly on free recreational programs that are friendly to older adults. Hence, caregivers can spend their time fruitfully outdoors, even in the company of their loved ones that they are taking care of. Lastly, the Aware Pillar provides caregivers with the knowledge of the social, financial, and practical support available for their perusal. For instance, pre-existing government subsidies, smart technology, and some simple tips and tricks to help alleviate their stress and burden. The SAA program is here to help. To all the informal caregivers out there, your dedication and love is extraordinary. However, do not forget about your own needs and wants. Love starts from within. Find out more about the SAA program now.
Yes, okay, thank you for watching the video. So in the next part of the website, you can actually find out more by clicking on the about the SAA program. So over here you'll see that this will be the brochure that we will be giving out as a form of publicity and outreach in order to make you aware of our program and opportunities that we can provide to you. For example, if you look down at the support and adjustment section, you can see all the workshops and opportunities that we currently provide for those who choose to participate in the program. And below, if you scroll down further, you can see that we also target awareness through instrumental resources, for example, subsidies, general tips, and current smart home technology that facilitates current care. And if you click on the Contact Us page in the menu as well, you can find various channels that you can use to reach out, sign up, and learn more. So just to say thank you for taking the time to check out our website. So before we conclude, we would like to say that we see that you are all strong and that you've developed important skills in your journey as an informal caregiver. So we envision that through this program, we will be able to further support you and your care recipient. And we hope to see everybody thrive through resilience and develop strong relationships in a supportive and facilitative community. Thank you.
Yes, questions and or comments. Okay, let me ask one. I noticed on your website, right below, there are theories and reflections. Well, I'm interested in the theories. There's not one, but I think four or five or more. Could you pick one and maybe talk us briefly through how any one of these is associated with or is the basis of um, your SAA program, any part of the program?
Maybe you can refer to the usually this is the main model that we use to develop our program. So we see that it's stress is very prevalent in caregiving, and burnout can result in a lot of different outcomes, which is quite harmful. So we actually use this model to inform our design. We are targeting the mediators such as the motivator, the appraisal, and the relationship quality. So we are trying to help these. We are trying to use our program to facilitate these areas in order to produce better outcomes for the caregivers and their care recipients. Yeah.
Thank you. So it's coping and coping strategies essentially. All right.
Social support, like we call it,
Right.
with the workshops about the instrumental support.
Sure.
Management.
Thank you. Others? Others? Yes, Lukman. Right. So the question is, how is this different from other available programs, such as those by AIC?
SAA program is different from pre-existing programs that already exist because for what we know is that the programs that exist now that are similar to the SAA program actually they are not community based. Yeah. So this one is actually for people to not have certain like to give them encouragement that this is part of their immediate community so that they can come together with people that are near, like, maybe living in the same housing estate, and then they know each other. Yeah.
Thank you. Any follow-up from this question? Luma, are you satisfied with the response? Anything to clarify? Okay. Any others? Okay, if not, let's give them a round of applause again. Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to the final presentation. And the table number is, what's the table number? Okay. Test sound. Okay, good. And microphones for in-house or no need? No need? Okay. All right. Okay, when you're ready. Sure, yes. Oh, this for me.
Later I'll be going through.
Okay, all right.
There's little dispute that transitioning into caregiving is physically, psychologically, and emotionally draining with lots to struggle. Managing the care recipient's care plan, providing assistance for daily for activities of daily living, financial planning, and if there's even time for it, managing the day job as well. In Singapore, caregivers of patients with dementia or Alzheimer's disease typically get the brunt of it all, given the higher number of ADLs that the care recipients have, and the great emotional burden that comes with caring for a loved one whose behavior is now unpredictable. It is crucial that they receive more support than they do now. It has been found that caregivers are not fully aware of services available and are even deterred from navigating fragmented resources that can potentially help them in their care coordination. In particular, care recipients with fewer than 3 ADLs tend to be underserved by available care management services. However, these ADLs are usually reversible given the appropriate revenue with the services. This underutilization leads to caregivers conducting more care-related activities than required. The fragmented nature of resources also make it difficult for caregivers to conduct cost-benefit analysis on what works best for them. Thus, we believe that it is crucial that caregivers be educated on the resources they can navigate to take the huge load off their shoulders. We also believe that the sooner the better to best equip new caregivers with Alzheimer's disease. We decided to embark on this project because we know that some of us are unable to avoid this problem, if not most of us. So we would certainly want to have the convenience of navigating care for our loved ones so that we may be able to care for them better in the future. So to address this issue, we have come up with an interactive brochure, and we want to partner with doctors to give out our brochure to caregivers upon diagnosis as an early intervention strategy for caregivers. So this is a video to convince the doctors to advocate for our brochure. Enjoy.
Mrs. Tan is the caregiver of her husband, Mr. Tan, an AD patient. She is experiencing burnout symptoms. She, like many caregivers in Singapore, faces increased risks of health issues as a result of her burnout. Does this sound like your patient's caregiver? We think that prevention from caregiver burnout can start with you. This interactive brochure will be helpful for your patients as it contains bite-sized information about AD, caregiver burnout, and resources for additional help. We recommend showing this interactive brochure to caregivers upon diagnosis of the patient. This brochure will allow you to continue focusing on the patient's diagnosis, treatment plan and outcomes, and caregivers can learn preventive measures to reduce the likelihood of burnout. With your help, we can increase the quality of care we can give our patients. You are the first line of defense for caregivers against burnout. Contact us now for access to the interactive brochure.
Thank you. Questions for this team or comments? Okay, my question is who will use this? Right. So, well, I imagine caregivers, like you say. So, is this merely a public education? Because almost everybody could be a caregiver. If you don't have dementia when you are at a certain age, then you are a caregiver, right? Either this or that, right? So, is this just public education, uh, or is there more to this? I mean, if it's public education, then how is this, right? Like Numan asked just now, in the light, different from other public education messages. If it's not, then what are the other components that could lead on from this program?
We wanted to start off our project with patients who have dementia first.
Thank you. Thank you. Other people? Nope. Nope. Okay, another round of applause for this team. Thank you very much. All right, let's go for a 10-minute break and then we'll come back to wrap up. Thank you. Okay, all right, let's resume and hopefully we can quickly call it a day. All right. Um, the presentations I saw, I have a few quick comments and observation. Most of your presentations were educational in nature, psychosocial or medical in nature, and targeted at family caregivers, as well as NGOs, VWO, and so on and so forth. Right, private company CSR for Lukman's group, which is okay, which is fine. That is a public program. Um, so observation is perhaps only I think Alistair's group come close to a policy when the mandatory nature of the program is kind of being advocated. So far, I haven't heard that kind of a policy. So policy meaning in this term, in the terms of regulation. Um, okay, yeah, so my question is perhaps policymakers to the other groups might be a secondary audience, may or may not be. In your written report, you want to think about uh, why or why not. Why these people, policymakers, might or might not be, right, a secondary audience to your program, to your public program, right? The other related aspect is a resource allocation. So whether it's a GP clinic or private company or in fact even family caregivers and certainly policymakers working in government organizations always have to deal with I have scarce resource, how much should I allocate to this versus that, right? So you would want to go beyond just saying the goodness, that means the efficaciousness, effectiveness, efficiency, importance, but you want to balance that out with the other side of the coin. That means people who are also advocating other causes, other programs aimed at other goals, other issues, problems to be solved or resolved or addressed and so on. And you want to try to make an argument that even on the balance of all that, balance with all the existing or the alternative, yours is still more important or more urgent, or still should be done at some point or immediately, and why? That will make for a strong advocacy statement. So it will go beyond. So that is at really the heart of advocacy. One part of it. It will go beyond. You can say selling or marketing. So marketing, you have a product, you have a service, you have a program. You talk about all the goodness of it, and say, come try it. It's good for you in whatever reasons. It works. Why? And that's great, right? We in advocacy, we want to go beyond that to say, even with all these other things out there, you should still give credence to this. Why? All right? Can you understand that? Okay. So that I hope to read from your individual written report. Okay. Next one. Knowledge by information leads to what? That's a thought that I had as I listened to each of your presentations. Does it lead to some form of change? I mean, if we talk about advocacy, it's really about making changes, either individually or in an organizational level, at a societal level, or whether these different levels entail individual people or organizations, whether government, non-governmental, and so whether in the psycho or the social or the medical spheres of influence, right? So what are the changes there? So yes, so they would use your program or use your service or undergo mandatory checks, and thereafter, right, you tell them that if you do this, here are the desired outcomes. I think I hear all this from each of the groups. You have presented all this quite clearly, which is to your credit, good, right? But so then what ultimately are the changes they will see? Right? So I hope you could use the 3,000 word to clarify that, make the point even clearer. Right? What change are you really after? After all, advocacy is really about some kind of change making, isn't it? You can tell. Oops. All right. So in the written report, I essentially like to see you tell the story of the 5 Ws and the 1H, essentially. I think I've covered this a bit. The what is the problem, the why must this problem be solved, where is this problem and where the problem solvers, problem participants are, when they should be solved, when the problem arises or has arisen, right? For whom, with whom, or to whom, right? Your solution is, and how this policy or program. So essentially, that's the report, right? Yes, the report has different sections, right? As you go through the sections that are stipulated or stated in the guideline given by the CDC process framework, right? But essentially, if I were to sum up everything, right, to a lay person, it will be these 5 Ws and 1H. Yeah. Okay. So I'd like you to have this in mind. So using CDC's framework is just as a guide to the various steps and even you can say procedures or processes to answering each of these 5 Ws and 1H. So you don't miss out anything. So that you give enough weightage or enough words to the more important ones, the applicable ones, and then of course you leave out those non-applicable ones. Okay. General marking rubric. I say here I'm looking for relevant and applicable right components of the CDC. So I imagine you will not write everything there because not everything is applicable, right? Well, at least if there is a mandatory nature like Ting Yi's group, then some of those questions there in that framework will be applicable, some are not. Those of you who have no mandatory nature, right, then you either target private companies or homemakers, right, or eventually, essentially, yeah, any other people, then you would have different applicable processes. Next, I write here, decisions, approaches taken in the advocacy of your policy or program should be rigorous and justified with evidence. So yes, evidence can mean theories that have research support. It can mean research studies that are credible. It can mean in the absence of these two, then other credible sources of information, right? Because of say they have political or slash governmental support, or because they say represent interest of a large group of stakeholders that are relevant to your policy slash program. Okay, so I'm looking out for these. So that's the general guideline or rubric I can give you. I can't go beyond this to be more specific unless, I mean, the only way I can be more specific is to actually run through you one case study, right? Where something has been done, a policy process, a policy analysis report has been worked out, and then run through with you frame by frame, almost like your other course lecturers who run through with you a research report, right? In the introduction, first paragraph, this, second paragraph, there, the method section, you must pay attention to this, that subsections, right? That kind of thing. Because if I were to do this, then that would go beyond the scope of this course, which is why I didn't do it. So this is really an introduction to an advocacy piece. So I am satisfied if you would follow that framework and try to use that framework to make the process as clear, as rigorous as possible. Okay, any questions on this? Oh yes, there is a question. There is a question by two or more of you. What's the difference between enactment and implementation? Right, there is a cycle, right? So I would like to bring us to the CDC's framework here. Is it open? Okay. All right. So you already would have access to this. I believe you would have looked at this somewhat already. All right. Go straight to policy enactment. So policy enactment is a stage where none of you are expected to address in depth but you should for the purpose of this written report, right, make reference to and make suggestions about. So enactment is about the decision. It is the making of a decision. So to enact a policy or to enact a program means I decide I will do this program. So if I'm a GP clinic, which group GP clinic? GP clinic. So let's say I'm the boss of the GP chain, right? Singapore, we have several big GP chains, right? So let's say I'm the director of the GP clinic. I will say, okay, I have you have bought me over. I will spend X dollars in the next say 3 months to 6 months, right? I will enact. What do you call that? I will get all my clinics under me, 5 clinics or 10 clinics in the whole of Singapore to start this program, to roll them out. So that's enactment. That's enactment. That means to make the decision. Just the decision only. We haven't even go into the details of how to get it done from step to step, from the point the patient enters the clinic, a caregiver, to speaking, to making what do you call it, registration and so on, right? None of those operational details, just the decision, the point of decision. So that is really policy enactment, right? For a mandatory program like Alistair's group, then it will be you want to think about which is the body that makes that decision. That means it takes approval in order for this regulation to be made, right? So in Singapore, we don't have, unlike bigger countries, we don't have the national, state, and province. We just have one government, right? So is that the government? If then is it at the what level would that be? Is it at the level of the parliament, or is that at the level of the administration, i.e. the cabinet, or at the level of a statutory board or body, right? Like Land Transport Authority or MSF, right, or MOH. So that is enactment, decision made. So each organization, each agency will have their own internal process or procedures for getting policy enacted or passed. For getting a program like a GP clinic, right? So maybe the GP clinic have to meet the board of directors. Maybe I have to meet all the senior GPs to get their buy-in, get their endorsement, to hear their concerns, right? So then you want to make a comment on, right? If you are the managing director of this, right, we recommend the managing director of GP clinics, right, to to meet with your board and show them this, or to provide this following information to your board members, or to refer your GPs to these various credible evidence, something like that, right? So that will be addressing policy enactment. Then implementation, right, are all the nitty-gritty, the operational aspects. That means now that the decision has been made, okay, now that it's been made, you have successfully turned the table. Now, how will you help your stakeholder, i.e. the GP clinic or the individual caregiver or family or Ministry of Health, right? How will you work with them, help them, assist them, right, to roll out in a step-by-step fashion? What are the major operational milestones you foresee, for instance, right, that can translate your program or policy into practice, right? What are the obstacles / barriers you foresee? And then what resolutions or workaround might you suggest to your stakeholders, right? What are the indicators or metrics that could be used to assess or evaluate, right, whether or not the implementation sticks to the, you can say, original protocol or the intent of the program / policy? So that is what we call the process indicators, how closely it sticks to the intent. Because we know on the ground, many times when programs / policies are implemented, they stray off and they become something else. Other elements are added due to operational constraints, due to differences in the actual realities of different grounds or different local environments, local sites of implementation. So how would you evaluate that kind of process? And of course, then you also want an overall evaluation. What are the indicators and metrics, right, that you would use to evaluate the success, the efficacy, the effectiveness, the efficiency? Would that be, say suicide rate? Would that be, say, self-harm, number of self-harm reports by seniors, older people, right? So, and of course, say why you choose that, why you recommend that metric, that scale, that inventory, or that, or it could even be a simple question, right? Yeah. Okay. So I'm here trying to uh, illustrate the difference between the two. Are we clear? Any further questions on this part? The difference between enactment and implementation. Those of you who have asked me this question, I hope I've clarified this. If I haven't, feel free to ask, either now or later in the email. But now will be better. Right. So anyone with any questions on these six um, processes with regard to what you need to write about? Yes, Alistair, then Lynn. Yep. Yes, yes, exactly. Which is what I just, which what I said just now in the presentation, in the slide, right? I said many of you kind of marketed or sold or sell, pitched your product. I mean, sorry, your policy slash program. That's great. But on the balance of other competing needs alternative, that's what exactly what you're saying, right? How would your program slash policy still stand ahead of, on top of, above these others? Have I emphasized this enough? This enough, right? So that's exactly what I mean to your question. Right. Okay, Lynn. Yeah. Oh, okay. Valuation is the next one, right? Okay, if you recall that circular diagram, the concentric circle, so we have the five, in fact, six, sorry, five. And then these two components, evaluation and stakeholder, are involved in everything, in each of those five. So for instance, problem identification. It's not just really, not just simply identifying the problem, but also how we work with stakeholders, i.e. engage stakeholders to identify the problem. How do we then evaluate our problem identification process such that we know, right, this really is the problem. We are not misdiagnosing the problem, right? So these two processes, you can say enabling processes, are more overarching processes. Yeah, that will be under here. Right, measuring here. That's right, evaluating here. So you could evaluate here and then each of the five, 1 to 5. But what you just said is evaluating here. Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Everybody knows where to get this document, right? It's already on the NTU Learn. I hope you know what this document is. Okay. If not, I move on. Okay, let me move on. All right. Okay, so I'll move on to reflective journal if no other questions on the project and written report. All right, so you would find that just from your, I don't know, I think for many of you, or in fact most of you, not sure if all, but for most of you, there is an improvement in your mark. You would find that you either have if you're already a high mark, then you have a high mark, or you have moved from a not so high mark to a high mark in this one. There's a mark improvement from journal one. Well, this is understandable because we get better as we go along. Two things. One is we train ourselves, we school ourselves to think in a certain way and reflect on something new, you know. So after a while you find that okay, you're more or less doing the same kind of reflection process, which is why I limit this to just 3 journal entries rather than say every week, because by the time I hit 5th week, I think we will address more or less the same things, just different topic. You'll think of the same in the same ways. So yeah, so that is expected. So I'm encouraged by that by two things. One, many of you do not stop at just saying, okay, I can relate to this, I have personal experience in that or encounter, but you go on to use credible evidence to support your postulations and or facts that you brought up in your journal, entry 3. So there is depth there in both reflection and the analysis. So you've gone beyond, I learned this and that, to here's what I would do differently. Here's what I change, right? From I say this, there's this happened, that happened, I did this, did that too, actually showing it, demonstration, right? Right? And from what to why, that means what is, right? The theory says this and that, we have to apply the theory, right? Which, if you say that, you will have run out of words. So you go beyond that, and you have many of you have gone beyond that to say, look, the TAC theory, the technology acceptance model, right, has shown something that is useful in my previous encounter or recent encounter when I did that or saw this or observed this in my father or grandmother, and so on, and can cover this in 2 sentences. That's the kind of succinctness that is required. It is, why is that required? Because it helps you to reflect more clearly. We tend to use many words. It's okay to write journal many words and like a diary, right? I think of this and think of that. But by the time you go through some kind of information over and over again and reflect a second time, a third time, a fourth time, you appraise it after a few times. Hopefully you are clearer on where your thoughts are, where your attitudes are, where your beliefs are, whether they have changed or not changed, or they're still in flux. You're clearer. Then when you're clearer, one way for me to assess that you have clarity in your own thought / attitude, beliefs, in any topic, right, is that you could express that in a written word in a concise fashion. Of course, that's not the only way. I mean, we could do oral, but universities seldom do oral exams, right? Right. Okay. So yeah, so the other thing, from general to more specific, from everyone to me, more personal. Right. So kudos to all the improvements you have made. There still remain some common areas for improvement. Some weak arguments without credible citations, and kind of a tenuous link from course content or debate to reflection or analysis. Just a bit here and there, right? I have, for those of you who have room for improvement, I should have made at least some comment about how or when you can improve. In terms of the content, many of you reflected on the Geron technology topic, various aspects. In particular, I think almost half of you talked about the debate, right? Many of you realized that you thought the debate motion was an open and shut case. It was a goner for the opposition, but turned out that the opposition performed well, not because they had a good ability to speak and eloquence, but also because they were able to think, right, and support their thinking, i.e. thoughts, right, with evidence, right, such that that motion, if you recall that motion, right, it's not a goner, it cannot possibly be taken for granted. Really, we could see more than 2 sides to that motion, right? So those were the common content, right? Okay, just quickly go through what we did as part of Flipped Classroom. Was really a series of debates. As I told you much earlier, Flipped Classroom really means student will take the role of leading content in the course. Debate is just one way to do it. I realized that it is at least one apt way of presenting the content in this course that we have selected. In week 3, right, the motion was more resources should be allocated to research the causes of and treatments for dementia rather than to manage, right? So from week 3, I started to get you to think that really there are at least 2, if not more, sides to a simple, often taken for granted course of action or approach to addressing or treating, right, the various issues faced by older adults. In week 3, it was dementia. But week 4, personality determines health in older adults, right? I think this is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest, motion to debate, because it is short. There are not many words there for you to pick on and run semantics on. Yeah, so you really have to think very hard and clear. So I think you are happy that, well, we didn't make this into the real student-led debate. It was the warm-up. And then in the student-led debate, where you had we have student organizers as well as the debating teams, right? Um, yeah, we find we had a good spread. If you recall, I actually let you take your pick, right, on the preferred topic earlier on, and then I tried to match people on match teams on preferred topic, right? And then I also required that each team take one kind of the earlier sessions and one later sessions, right? And with all these debates, as you go along, as you go by until week 11, you would already probably begin to observe that um, there are many, there are, well, not a few um, uh, thoughts that uh, where if we do not examine them, we may not understand they exist in terms of thoughts related to attitudes about older adults, whether it's regarding geron technology or retirement, re-employment, and so on. Okay, you will also find that some of these topics in the debate are topics that if we do not have them as debate, you may kind of just read them as part of a chapter and move on, part of that weekly topic. Say in week 7, the re-employment age in Singapore should continue to be increased, right? It's part of the retirement topic, right? Work retirement and aging. So these are sometimes hot issues, sometimes issues that are controversial, but these issues bring up, right, at least two schools of thought. I would say often more than two schools of thought. And I realize, and I hope you realize by now that, well, experts never agree. Experts do not agree. So experts on this side will say he's right on this way, is the preferred way, is best way, is most substantiated by evidence. So on the other side will kind of say the same thing. Right? Experts will not agree. It's up to people on the ground, policymakers who translate what you call knowledge into action, into policies, into programs, right? To be convinced on the balance of need, um, of urgency, of importance of any policy or program, which is why I made you do the advocacy project. Yep, that's all I will say. And okay, and finally, there was one or two of you who had some interest in interventions, either talked to me, emailed me, or wrote in your reflective journal. And one of those common areas I thought I observed is that we seem to be interested in caregiver intervention on cases of dementia. And understandably so, because dementia um, dementia alone, it's already known to be one of the most burden-inducing, you can say, illness faced by an older adult that almost causes catastrophe to the family, to the family caregivers, to family members who are suddenly thrown into a role called caregiving. Right, it comes with shock. It comes with a daily distress, it comes with daily burdens. And so for the lack of time, I won't go through exactly how therapy is done. In fact, this is also not a course for doing therapy, but the two main types of orientation to therapy will be the BT and the CBT for caregivers, not for the dementia patient, for caregivers, right? So there are various names to a behavioral therapy, right? One term is called behavioral prescription. There are various names to cognitive behavioral therapy, right? In dementia, and as in several other mental illnesses, one name they call CBT is cognitive restructuring, and then they will have worksheets. So I'll make these worksheets available on NTU Learn. And the gold standard for dementia caregiver intervention is now called REACH2. Stands for, if I remember correctly, Resources and Education for Alzheimer's Disease Caregivers. And okay, H, I forgot what that is. You can Google that. Right. So that is one intervention that I believe would be something that you should know at least about. Okay, I think that's all. That's all I have. All the best. Next week when you submit your written report, no hard copies, just do turn it in on NTU Learn. That will suffice. Make sure you do it by the time that is stipulated. And for that written report, I'm not able to, I'm not allowed to disclose the mark to you. Okay, I mean treat it like your final exam. You don't get a mark. I mean you don't get all the components. Then you can add them together and know what is the overall. It's just not allowed. Okay, so I can't give you that mark, right? It is considered what we call summative assessment. Summative means at the conclusion. Like formative will be a reflective journal and participation, right? So that one is to help you become better and better. Summative is assessing you at the end, right? So that's that, and that is my work email. In case the NTU email doesn't work, or well, if I come back next term to teach again, then I will have the same NTU email, right? So I'm happy to entertain, to hear written comments. Just contact me by email will do, right? On any of the topics that we cover or did not even cover, but which are part of Geropsychology. Okay, so thank you very much. Been a good student and audience. All the best for your final exams. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you. Loman just asked me a very important question. I beg your pardon. How do you submit your project aside from just presenting just now in the 6 minute, right? So some of you will have videos, some of you have URLs, some of you would have blogs and websites and so on. Okay, so I'll create a on NTU Learn. I'll create a folder. So you can this folder will have each team you can put things in. So I'll group these folders by your team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You know your team number. You can just put everything there. I think that will do. Okay, so don't email me because then I'll be flooded with emails. I might be visiting the wrong place or looking at the wrong things or confusing team one's work with team two's work and so on, right? Then I cannot give you a fair mark. So I'll create that folder. Okay, thank you, Lungman. Yeah. Anything else I miss out? Question? Yep. Possible. Let me check NTU Learn whether it allows you to put a Google Drive link. Alternatively, you could put it on, say, YouTube or some, if you're comfortable, of course, on some public. And then we have this thing called course content, right? You see me put YouTube videos there of our live stream. Google, what? Yeah, I mean, I personally, I'm fine. So long as I can view it, I can, read it or view it, I can mark it. Yeah. Yeah. So let me create that. I know that NTU Learn now has more features, but I don't know specifically whether you could kind of, allow that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.